The framed letter from the City of Atlanta's controller was in the recycling bin outside Suite 1400. I recognized it through the plastic window of the bin. I had hung it in my office 13 years ago. It was the best letter I ever got from a client. It was in the recycling bin because Callista Mayhew needed the wall space. That was a Tuesday morning. September 9th, 2025, 8:30. I was carrying a banker's box from Suite 1402 to Suite 1412. Old office to new office. 1402 had floor-to-ceiling windows and a view of Peachtree Street. 1412 was interior. No windows, half the size. I set the box down, reached into the bin, pulled out the frame. The glass had a crack across the bottom left corner. The letter behind it was fine. Marcus Webb, Controller, City of Atlanta, April 2013. 3 paragraphs. The second one said my name twice and used the words, "sustained professionalism under extraordinary pressure." I tucked the frame under my arm, picked up the box, kept walking to 1412. I did not say a word to anyone. My name is Philip Vande Walle. I was 45 years old. I had been at Stanhope Audit and Advisory Group in Atlanta for 23 years, hired as a staff auditor in 2003, the summer I graduated from Calvin University in Grand Rapids, Michigan. I was 22, made partner in 2016. My specialty was government audit. That means I audited cities, counties, school districts, transit authorities, and nonprofits that spend federal money. Single audits, yellow book engagements, the kind of work where the federal government wants to know with certainty that the money went where it was supposed to go, and they want one person's name on the report saying so. That name was mine. I was the named engagement partner on 6 government clients. The City of Atlanta, $2.8 million a year. Fulton County School District, $2.1 million. MARTA, the city's transit authority, $2 million. Georgia Regional Transportation Authority, $1.8 million. Families First, a state-funded nonprofit, $1.4 million. Atlanta Beltline Partnership, $1.1 million. 6 clients, $11.2 million in annual revenue. The firm's total was $38.1 million. My clients were just under 30% of everything Stanhope earned in a year, 112 employees. Almost a third of their paychecks flowed through engagements with my name at the bottom. Here is what matters about that signature. Under federal government auditing standards, the engagement partner's name on an audit report is a personal professional attestation. Not a rubber stamp, not a formality. It means you, with your name and your license, are telling the federal government that these numbers are right. You cannot hand that off. You cannot delegate it. The name on the line is the person who is responsible, the person who answers the phone when the federal auditors call, the person who sits in the room when the government audit committee has questions. My name was on every line. For 23 years. My father was a tool and die machinist at a steel case plant in Grand Rapids. 28 years at the same bench on the same shift. He never talked about his work. He just showed up every morning and came home every night. I grew up watching that. You show up, you do the work, you do not explain yourself. I earned my CPA license at 25, certified government financial manager at 28, certified fraud examiner at 29. I did not hop between firms. I sat in the same building on Peachtree Street for 23 years, and I audited government books correctly every single time. In 2013, the City of Atlanta was in trouble. A procurement corruption investigation had blown open. Subpoenas everywhere, restatements stacking up. The single audit that year was the hardest engagement I ever ran. 6 months, 7-day weeks. I had a 7-year-old son and a 4-year-old daughter at home. My wife Annalie was building her photography business out of our spare bedroom. I missed their bedtimes for 2 straight months. She did not complain once. In 2019, Annalie had her first solo exhibition at a gallery in Decatur. She had worked on it for a year. I told her I would be there for the opening. That same week, the Fulton County School District audit hit a restatement problem. I spent the evening of her opening on a conference call with the district's CFO sitting in my car in the gallery parking lot. I never went inside. She never brought it up again. When the 2013 audit was done, the city controller wrote a commendation letter to the firm addressed to me by name. He said what nobody inside the firm had ever said, that I was good at this, that the work mattered, that I had not quit when everyone around me wanted to. I framed that letter. I hung it on my office wall in Suite 1402. It stayed there for 13 years. Until Callista Mayhew threw it in the trash. If you have ever been the person who built something real and then watched someone with a family connection walk in and act like they earned it, hit that like button and subscribe. Callista Mayhew was 30 years old. She had a communications degree from the University of Georgia and an MBA from UCLA Anderson. Before Stanhope, she had worked 18 months at a branding consultancy in New York. She had never audited anything. She had never read the federal government auditing standards. She had never appeared before a government audit committee. She had never signed a single audit report. She had never sat in a room with a county CFO and explained a restatement. She was Ronald Stanhope's niece. Her mother, Diane, was Ronald's younger sister. Ronald was 61. He co-founded the firm in 1987. He was the managing partner. He was not a bad man. He loved his niece. He believed she would grow into the work. He also knew that my 6 clients kept the lights on. His failure was wanting both of those things and not seeing that they could not both work at the same time. Callista started in March of 2025 as Director of Growth and Innovation. Within 6 months, Ronald promoted her to Partner Track VP of Strategy. She moved into Suite 1402, my old office. She brought in new furniture, ordered business cards with her name and the title VP of Strategy and Innovation. She scheduled something called a forward-facing partner strategy session and sent a calendar invite to every partner in the firm. I was not on the list. In that meeting, on September 8th, Callista presented a slide deck titled Stanhope 2030, From Legacy to Growth. I was not in the room. A colleague who was there told me what she said about me. Her exact words, "Philip is institutional memory. He is not a growth driver." She said that in a room full of partners who knew my 6 clients were paying for the building they were sitting in, nobody in that room said anything. I heard that on September 8th. The next morning, I walked into the hallway carrying a banker's box and found my 13-year-old commendation letter in the recycling bin. Nobody asked if I had a problem with the move. Nobody asked about the letter. Callista and Ronald assumed I would absorb it, that I would keep my head down and keep signing the reports. 2 kids, one already in college at Georgia Tech, one about to start applications, a wife who freelanced, a 45-year-old CPA in a specialized field. They figured I was stuck. That evening, I drove home to Decatur. I carried the cracked frame into the kitchen and set it on the counter. Annalie looked at it. She looked at the crack in the glass. She looked at me. She said, "What are you going to do?" I said, "Document it." I went to my study, opened my laptop, logged into the firm's engagement management software, created a new folder. I titled it, Documentation, Callista Mayhew, Signature Events, because here is what Callista Mayhew did not understand. In the 6 months since she arrived, she had started signing client-facing documents, internal work papers, draft letters, correspondence to government audit clients. She was signing them with her name above a line that read, Certified Public Accountant, Partner. Callista Mayhew was not a partner. She held a CPA license. She had passed the exam in 2023 with the firm's support, but she had never been admitted to the partnership. She had never been designated as engagement partner on any client. Under federal government auditing standards, only the named engagement partner can sign audit-related communications to government clients. That signature is personal, it cannot be assumed, it cannot be borrowed, and it cannot be faked. I did not know that night how many documents she had already signed. I did not know how far it had gone, but I had seen enough to know that what she was doing was not a learning exercise. It was a professional standards violation. And under the ethics rules that govern every CPA in this country, when you know about a violation, you have an obligation to act on it. So I did. I entered the first record, date, document type, client. Callista's signature line, the applicable federal standard it violated. Then I closed the laptop, went back to the kitchen. Annalie did not ask anything else. I did not say another word about Stanhope that night. I spent the next 10 weeks doing exactly what I said I would do. Documenting. Every time Callista Mayhew signed a client-facing document as partner, I logged it. Date, document type, client name, her exact signature line, the federal standard it violated. I kept everything in the firm's own engagement management software, time-stamped, stored on the firm's servers. I was not hiding anything. I was using the system the firm pays for, doing what every CPA is trained to do. You see a problem in an engagement, you document it. That is not revenge. That is the job. In the first 4 weeks, I logged 9 entries. 4 were internal work paper sign-offs. Those were technically arguable. But 5 were external client-facing documents, draft management letters, engagement correspondence, compliance summaries. sent to government offices with her name above the line that read, Certified Public Accountant, Partner. Those were not arguable at all. During those 10 weeks, Callista did not slow down. She did not check with anyone about signing authority. She walked the 14th floor with her new title and her new business cards, and she signed whatever came across her desk. She used phrases like client-centric innovation and forward-facing partner profile in her emails to the engagement teams. She had no idea what a single audit threshold was. She did not know the difference between a management letter and an engagement letter. She had never been in a room with a government audit committee, and she was signing documents as if she had done all of it. I was still running the 6 government engagements from Suite 1412. I still answered calls from Adrienne Holloway at the City of Atlanta. I still reviewed work papers for the Fulton County School District. I still met federal deadlines. I still did the work. On September 22nd, 2 weeks into the log, I called Ruth Tanner. Ruth is 52, partner emeritus at a peer CPA firm in Atlanta. I have known her since a Government Finance Officers Association conference in 2009. I told her what I was seeing. She said, "Call the American Institute of CPA's Ethics Advisory Service. Ask as a hypothetical. Do not give your name, and keep everything in the engagement software, not a personal file. You want the documentation in the firm's own system, time-stamped, on their servers." I called the Ethics Advisory Service that same week. I presented the scenario as a hypothetical, a non-partner at a CPA firm signing external client-facing documents as partner on government audit engagements. The advisor listened. He asked 2 follow-up questions. Then his response was direct. A non-partner representing themselves as partner on client-facing documents is a misrepresentation under the professional ethics standards governing integrity and objectivity. If the documents relate to government audit work, the matter may also implicate federal auditing standards on independence and professional qualifications. That was not a gray area. That was a professional standards violation, stated plainly by the National Ethics Advisory Service. I thanked the advisor. I did not give my name. I added the call to my log. On October 6th, 4 weeks in, I tried the internal route. I sat down with Ronald in his office. I did not raise my voice. I did not make an accusation. I brought 4 of the external documents. I laid them on his desk side by side, each one bearing Callista's signature above the line, Certified Public Accountant Partner. I asked him to clarify Callista's signing authority under the firm's engagement policies. Ronald leaned back. He looked at the documents. He folded his hands. He said, "She is working toward partner. She is learning the function." I said, "Her signature on client-facing documents as partner is not a learning exercise, Ronald. It is a professional standards issue." He said, "I will look into it." He did not look into it. Nothing changed. The following week, Callista signed 2 more draft letters to government clients. I logged both. That brought the count to 11. By October 21st, my log had 17 entries. 4 internal, 13 external. Each one dated. Each one cited to the specific federal standard. The most serious was the last. A draft management letter to the City of Atlanta's Office of the Controller, bearing Callista's signature above the line, Certified Public Accountant Partner, sent to the largest government client in the firm's portfolio, $2.8 million a year. My client, my engagement, my signature that was supposed to be on that letter. That letter landed on the wrong desk. On October 17th, a Friday afternoon, my phone rang. Adrienne Holloway, Controller for the City of Atlanta. She had worked with me for 14 years. She knew my voice. She knew my work. She had never heard the name Callista Mayhew. She said, "Philip, I am looking at a management letter with a name I do not recognize. It says partner next to her name. Is this still your engagement?" I said, "That letter was sent without my authorization. Hold it. Do not respond to it." She said she would. I documented the call in my file. The management letter Adrienne had received became entry 17 in the signature log. 4 days later, on Tuesday, October 21st at 9:15 in the morning, I submitted 2 formal complaints. The first went to the Government Accountability Office Inspector General's Office under their Audit Quality Review Program. I attached a 4-page summary memo, all 17 documented signature events from the engagement software log, the ethics advisory call notation, a written summary of my October 6th conversation with Ronald, which I had documented in an email to myself that same evening, and the draft management letter that Adrienne Holloway had flagged. The second went to the Georgia Board of Accountancy, a professional conduct complaint against Callista Mayhew's CPA license, citing misrepresentation of professional title on client-facing government audit documents. Both complaints filed at 9:15 in the morning, on a Tuesday, during business hours, from my desk at Stanhope Audit and Advisory Group, Suite 1412. There was nothing theatrical about it, no midnight email, no resignation letter. I had documented 17 violations over 10 weeks. I had consulted the National Ethics Advisory Service. I had raised the matter internally with the managing partner. He had declined to act. I followed the process that my profession requires. That was all. Within 3 weeks, the Government Accountability Office Inspector General's Office sent a formal inquiry letter to the firm. It requested documentation of partner designation authority for Callista Mayhew on the listed engagements. The firm had 15 business days to respond. Ronald read it on a Monday morning. He called me that afternoon. He said, "Philip, what have you done?" I said, "I raised this with you on October 6th, Ronald. I have that conversation documented." He was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "This was not necessary." I said, "The federal documentation requirements are what they are. I documented what I found. That is my professional obligation." He hung up. On November 12th, the City of Atlanta's Office of the Controller formally notified Stanhope that it was pausing authorization of the fiscal year 2025 management letter. They requested an in-person meeting with the named engagement partner before proceeding. That was me. The $2.8 million engagement was on hold. 2 days later, on November 14th, the Fulton County School District sent its own query. They had received a similar communication bearing Callista's partner signature. They wanted engagement partner verification. The $2.1 million engagement was flagged. $4.9 million in annual revenue suspended in 48 hours. On November 18th, the Government Accountability Office Inspector General's Office issued a conditional approval notation for Stanhope Audit and Advisory Group in its audit quality database. That notation meant the firm was under quality review. New government engagement contracts above the federal single audit threshold could not begin until the review was resolved. Stanhope had $4.2 million in pending proposals in its government services pipeline. New county governments, new school districts, new transit authorities, all of it frozen. $4.9 million in active revenue suspended. $4.2 million in new business frozen. $9.1 million at risk because a 30-year-old woman with 18 months at a branding consultancy signed documents that were not hers to sign. And because the managing partner of the firm let it happen. Callista's business cards were still on her desk in 1402, VP of Strategy and Innovation. The forward-facing partner strategy session she had scheduled was still on the calendar. Nobody had canceled it yet. I closed the laptop and drove home. 2 days after the pipeline froze, on November 20th, the Georgia Board of Accountancy acknowledged receipt of my complaint and opened a formal investigation into Callista Mayhew's professional conduct. Callista was notified by letter, addressed to her by name. I was not in the room when she read it. A colleague on the 14th floor told me later that she walked out of her office holding the letter, walked straight to Ronald's door and went inside. She was in there for 40 minutes. When she came out, she did not make eye contact with anyone. She went back into Suite 1402 and closed the door. The next evening, November 21st, a Friday, my phone rang at 6:30. Ronald. He did not start with small talk. He said, "Philip, I need you to write a letter to the Georgia Board withdrawing the complaint." I said, "I cannot withdraw a factual complaint, Ronald." He said Callista was learning. He said she had no intent to misrepresent. He said the signatures were an honest mistake. He said this was going to damage a young woman's career over a paperwork issue that could have been handled internally. I let him finish. I waited until he was done. Then I said, "Intent does not govern federal auditing standards. Documentation does. She signed 17 documents as partner on government audit engagements. She is not a partner. I raised this with you on October 6th. You told me you would look into it. You did not. I gave you the chance to handle it internally. You chose not to. The process moved forward." He was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "You could have come to me again." I said, "I did come to you. Once was enough." He hung up. That was the last conversation I had with Ronald Stanhope about Callista Mayhew. December came and went. The firm moved quickly once the federal inquiry forced their hand. They retained outside ethics counsel to respond to the Government Accountability Office audit quality review. Callista was removed from all client-facing engagement documents immediately. She could not sign anything. She could not send anything to a government client. She could not represent herself as partner in any capacity. Ronald issued an internal policy memo on partner signing authority. 4 paragraphs. Sent to every employee in the firm. It said what I had said in his office on October 6th. Only now it was formatted as policy. Now it had his signature at the bottom. The Georgia Board of Accountancy investigation moved on its own schedule. Estimated resolution, 6 to 9 months. During the investigation, Callista's CPA license was placed on conditional active status. She could practice under supervision. She could not sign. She could not attest. She could not hold herself out as partner on anything. She still came to the office. She still sat in suite 1402, but the door stayed closed most days. The slide deck stopped. The strategy session stopped. The calendar invites stopped. No more client-centric innovation. No more forward-facing partner profile. No more from legacy to growth. In early January of 2026, I got a call from a recruiter, Aprio, one of the 50 largest CPA firms in the country, based in Atlanta. They had a government assurance and advisory partner role open. They wanted someone with deep federal single audit experience, Yellow Book credentials, and established relationships with government clients across the state. The managing partner of their government practice asked me one question: "How soon can you start?" I said, 4 weeks from the day I accept. The offer came on January 15th, 2026, government assurance and advisory partner. Base salary, $295,000. My salary at Stanhope had been $214,000. That was a 38% increase. I signed the offer. I gave Ronald 4 weeks' notice. He did not try to talk me out of it. He did not counteroffer. He knew. He had known since November. My 6 government clients represented $11.2 million of the firm's annual revenue. My departure triggered engagement partner reassignment reviews on every one of them. 3 of those clients, including the city of Atlanta, had already paused or flagged their engagements over the Callista situation. Reassigning a new engagement partner on a government audit is not a calendar update. It requires the client's consent. It requires the new partner to meet federal qualification standards. It requires documentation, review, and in some cases, approval from the Government Audit Committee. 2 of my clients, the Georgia Regional Transportation Authority and the Atlanta Beltline Partnership, began requesting proposals from other firms before my last day. They saw the conditional approval notation in the federal database and they started looking. That was $2.9 million in annual revenue gone. The firm survived. Ronald Stanhope built it in 1987, and he was not going to let it die over 1 quarter. But the government services practice I had built over 23 years was cut in half in a single quarter. The federal audit quality review remained open. The new business pipeline stayed frozen. And Callista Mayhew, who had called me institutional memory and said I was not a growth driver, was sitting in a corner office with a conditional CPA license, a closed door, and nothing to sign. Ronald had to appear before the firm's peer review committee and explain how a non-partner had signed 17 client-facing documents as partner over 10 weeks without internal controls catching it. He had to explain why my internal escalation on October 6th had produced no action. He had to explain the conditional approval notation. He had to say all of it out loud in a room full of CPAs who understood exactly what every word meant and exactly what it was going to cost. He did not mention my name. He did not need to. Everyone in the room already knew. On February 14th, 2026, I sat at my new desk at Aprio. The Gwinnett County School District engagement letter was in front of me. My first client at the new firm. A government single audit. The same kind of work I had been doing for 23 years. I picked up my pen. I signed my name in the partner signature block. Philip Vande Walle, certified public accountant, certified government financial manager, engagement partner. I dated it, filed it, closed my laptop. Some men burned it all down on the way out. I just filed what I found, and that was enough. I drove home to Decatur that evening. When I walked into my study, I saw it. The framed commendation letter from the City of Atlanta's controller, April 2013. The cracked glass had been replaced. Annalie had hung it on the wall above my desk while I was in my last week at Stanhope. She had not mentioned it. She had not asked where to put it. I set the engagement letter folder on the desk below it. I turned off the desk lamp and went to the kitchen. If you enjoyed this story, hit that like button and let me know what you think in the comments. And if you have not subscribed yet, subscribe and ring that notification bell to get alerts about new stories like this one. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.